look at the property. I said, no, just wait a minute, meet these folks, they're nice folks. And so he was a vet from the Marines, and they were vets from the Navy, and they just clicked, and that was the deal.
So it's just perfect, you know what I mean? It's like you say, don't leave. I mean, I want you here. You guys bond, and you know, and it's perfect because you got to take advantage of whatever advantage you can get, right? In the market, and the other agent maybe showed it when he wasn't there, right? Emailed in the offer, and you know nothing about it, and so they're just names on a piece of paper to him, right? Whereas these people have a face, and you know, and a story, and that kind of stuff. And I'm just telling, take advantage of that kind of stuff. That's your job. Right? He's representing the buyer. All right, his job is to get that buyer that home. He knew that was the one, and it ended up being just what they wanted. Right? They concurred with you when you got there. So it's
just doing a good job being aware of your client. You know, if your client's if you know the guy pulling up, that's your client is a jackass.
Yeah. Exactly. Why don't you go ahead and get on out of here? Because that's right.
Yeah, they're super nice people. So
right. That's
it worked perfectly.
Right. You got an African American couple you're representing, and this guy's flying the flag or something.
Right.
Hey, why don't you? That's right. Exactly. Swastika tattoo right here. Prison ink. You're right. Yeah, get going. Hey, Jim, could you hand me the keyboard so I can click through the presentation? Yeah, I don't have a clicker. So, yeah. Well, I guess I could use it, but I also use it since we're all just sitting around more casual today. So, how things going with you guys?
Good. We're busy.
Awesome. Busy, good. Busy, productive. Busy.
Busy both.
Uh-huh.
The move, which I guess it was in February.
Right.
Really sucked productivity away from us.
Takes time.
As a matter of fact, we booked zero commission in February, which is unusual. However, the other months have made up for it. But we were kind of having a heated discussion on the way over about the whole transaction coordinator issue. Right. And I believe in the transaction coordinator's concept, particularly because I'm bad at paperwork.
Right.
I don't like paperwork.
Right.
Pam is good at paperwork, so she ends up taking too much time, and we need her not to be doing paperwork. She's great. She's a great realty.
Right.
And but the debate is, I'm in favor of it, but if we spend money, the time we save, we need to put into lead generating business.
Right. There's got to be a return on that investment. Yeah. I agree.
So we were kind of knocking that around.
Right.
So I think we're going to go to a transaction. We'd already talked to Brindley a year ago.
I got you, because she's housed in KW office, right? At the Tampa Properties or Palm Harbor?
No, Tampa Properties. The one that was on
Bush. Okay.
Aren't they around here somewhere?
They're online going now. Down.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Right. Is she still in their office, or did she move out?
Okay. I believe she and all 5 of her coworkers all work from home.
Gotcha. Okay. Good.
Yeah, and that's how I kind of hooked up with her.
Right.
She was Keller, and I heard about her. And I kid people. I was telling Rachel, the new person in Wesley Chapel.
Yeah. Okay.
Rachel Cho. She was at the meeting yesterday.
Oh, I met her last time. Gotcha. I know who you're talking about. Right.
But we were talking about transaction coordinators, and I recommended her. But I always describe my first meeting with Brindley was like mind-boggling for me, because she's just like, here's my deal, here's my thing, this is what we do. Everything you want a transaction.
Right. Just a checkbox. Right.
And I was like, she left us with checklists and all this stuff. And clearly that was something we needed.
Right.
But we didn't, at the time we elected not to, because your business goes like this.
Sure.
And part of it's probably the whole transaction coordinator issue, because you're so busy with the stuff that they would do for you that you stop lead generating and things like that.
You hit the nail on it. I'll tell you, my months would go, I'd put 12 properties under contract, no properties under contract, 12 properties under contract, No problem. And it's because I looked at it and said, why am I doing 0? It's because I'm too busy closing the 12, right? So get rid of that and let me put another 12 under contract, you know what I mean? And so you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly.
So we're, let's see, what did you ask me? How's it going? Oh.
Yeah.
And so we're genuinely excited and couldn't be happier about being in the future. We feel it's a great decision.
Awesome.
But we're still gearing up. You know,
Understood.
We are half of what we want to be, need to be, and still trying to figure out ways to do it. Analyzing the stuff that we do and do well versus the things we don't do well, which kind of it plays into this because this is about physical, emotional, and mental, all of that stuff. So neither one of us are, just to characterize it generally, you know, I make phone calls with the best of them, but I don't like to do it. So what happens is I don't do it as much as I should. When I do it, it's great. When I don't, I don't. I don't knock on doors. Don't want to knock on doors. Never will knock on doors.
Sure.
And Pam's not the best. I mean, now we're good realtors. People call us. Follow up is good and all that. But that other kind of lead generation we don't do. Which again, I'm not trying to dominate. Why I was blown away by our first 100K meeting because you introduced a concept which I'd never heard at Keller Williams. And we all know Keller Williams, and it's a great company, but I taught the lead generation class. It was all about, you know, how do you overcome call reluctance and
overcoming objections, right? And it's
make calls, and you know, Keller Williams study. If you make enough calls, you can make $300,000 a year. Cold calls. He's got to study. He studied everything. And but it's still an area that most people fail at. Sure. And if it's the only thing that you can do to be in the business, most people shouldn't get into business.
Correct.
And so when you sort of talked about, you know, attracting people, Pam and I've never worked our sphere as well as we should have, and you just told us something that we've been told hundreds of times. But just the HUD concept, just an easy, great way to generate buyers. And you also said it's okay to work with buyers. Which in my particular office, that's like heretical.
Right, exactly. That's heresy. I know. I'm with you.
Buyers and all that stuff. And so it's, you know, teaching you how to generate listings and find listings was all they did. So, you know, you introduced kind of something I knew, but to hear someone that I thought highly of say it and point to success in that business and a way to do it in a way that can eventually it'll lead to listings. And you build a career based on that, and then the concept of working HUD houses was just brilliant because you know, you just present yourself, you put up signage, and you wait for people to show up. The exact opposite of smiling and dialing. So you know, we're incorporating all of that into it, and then trying to find ways to overcome the mental and emotional issues we have related to other things that probably ought to do. And but I'm the first one to say that, you know, if you don't like doing it, you should find other ways to be in the business, because odds are, no matter how many books you read or classes you go to or you know, shrinks you spend time with, if inside your natural, you know, self has an issue with that, eventually you'll be less effective, or you won't do it as much, or you'll find a way to do something else. Whereas if you direct yourself to activities that you like, so you know,
they're your strengths. You know, you gotta write this name down. Marcus Buckingham.
Okay.
We studied him last session. Matter of fact, there's a 6 DVD session that we went through.
We really felt bad that we missed 2.
No, not last session. Last time we taught 100K before you guys were here.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but Marcus Buckingham. Were you in the last one where we showed the Buckingham series? You guys should check that out. I mean, do we have those recorded? We don't, do we?
Trombone.
Oh, we do? Yes.
The fall session, yeah.
The fall session, if you go back to the fall, you can try and just scan through and see the video that we showed, because we showed 6 different little video clips, about 15 minutes long. It's called Trombone Player Wanted. Matter of fact, if you Google it, yeah, you can find YouTube sessions of each one, probably.
If I Google trombone player wanted.
Yeah, Marcus Buckingham, Trombone Player Wanted.
Probably the best thing would be to go to YouTube and search for it.
Right, exactly, yeah, exactly. Search for it that way.
Okay.
Incredible, he's studied, and his whole thing is about playing to your strengths. And that, I won't steal all the thunder, but he says, okay, so they did this study and said, okay, your kid comes home with an A in art, a B in math, an A in art, a B in history, another A in English, and a D in math. What do you make him do? Yeah, right, exactly. What do you make him do? More math. Let's figure this, you know what I mean? Guess what? Okay, you know what? His theory is this, totally opposite, right? Talk about not working with listings, but let's work with buyers, turn it upside down. Let's foster the natural tendency that this kid has. Now, don't get me wrong, we have to manage the weakness, right? You need to be proficient in math, but you don't have to be a math expert. If you're not into it, you know what I mean? If you're not into making cold calls, you don't get excited about waking up every morning, so let me make some cold calls, then let's not make cold calls. That's not fun, right? And so learning what your strengths are and then playing to those strengths is huge. And I think your eyes will be wide open. Plus, he has a couple books out there too. One is Now Go Do Your Strengths or something. It's really good. But check Buckingham.
What happens in real estate, because there's so much emphasis on get the listings, make the cold calls, do all this stuff. And our office became Mike Ferry advocate.
Yeah, right.
I hate Mike Ferry. Although, interestingly, his son Tom, very good.
Right. So maybe Tom hates Mike.
Well,
that's why he reinvented.
He said, "I'm not going to be like that."
Yeah, right.
So they actually have a very interesting story, and Tom wrote a book, and he outlines it.
Shit, I don't think I knew.
And it's pretty.
I always heard Ferry. I don't think I even paid attention to the first name. I didn't realize there were 2 of them.
There's 2 of them.
There was
first
a dad.
you don't,
right?
And then you start, because Mike Ferry came. There was a guy in our office who was like huge Mike Ferry
disciple.
He'd been with him for 10 years. He was personal friends with Mike.
Right.
So he goes. They do these 3-hour things where they try and sign you up for the bigger stuff. Mike Ferry actually came.
Okay.
And did hours.
Right. So instead of one of his lackeys, right.
Just hated the guy. And he's irritating. I shouldn't say. And he's 78 years old. I hope I have as much energy as him, but just hated him. But somehow in the process found out about his son. Right. And his son's so different. Right. And he wrote a book. I can't remember what it's called now. You'd probably enjoy it because it's about life. And all the things you talk about in this course, I'll send you. Because it's from a real estate. He tells his story, and he's all about improving your life as well as being successful in real estate. And he does coaching and all that kind of stuff. And now I can't remember what it was I was going to say. I think because that we get that hammered at us so much that, and most people won't do it, can't do it, don't like to do it. We end up abandoning everything. You throw the baby out with the water, and the concept of a power hour, which is when you don't have to make phone calls. No. There's all these other things. You can write cards. You can send emails. You can send texts. You can call your sphere, which is a different animal completely. Right. But I think because people think that the power hour means you gotta cold call, they don't do anything. Right. And that is a shame. It is, and because to the point, and we make sure we're all clear on this, that our power is basically communicating with your community, and whatever that might mean, right? That may be one-on-one. Hey, that's the time I'm going to do my coffee with somebody. It may be 8 power notes. It might be, hey, let me follow up with some email. That's okay to do during that hour of power because you're communicating
Remember, we're going to go deeper with a few rather than shallow with many. And so that's your time to go deeper with a few. And some people, and to your point, calling your sphere is not a cold call, right? If it is, then you get the wrong sphere. Right? You need to get a new sphere. And so with that in mind, hey, and you're also calling them true, because even there are some people out there teaching you to call your sphere with the commission breath theory. I'm calling them to get a deal. No, here you're calling them to just be generous, right? How can I help? What can I do? Last time we talked, this was going on in your life. I heard you. I listened. I took notes.
Yeah.
How'd that turn out?
Well, that was a new concept in 7 levels.
Right.
Because Brian Buffini's a big working network.
Right.
Dan's more familiar with it than I am, but I'm sure it's commission breath as opposed to.
Right, yeah, a lot of that stuff is, and referral's great, but if it's all about the referral. And then the other thing, I've evolved and we'll talk about this when we get to the slide about the 7 levels, because I want to hear what you guys, you're doing some great, you're kind of leading us into this, because there's some good takeaways that you've already had, and there are times, matter of fact, remember how we say we're not allowed to use the R word, we're not allowed to say referrals, we say introductions and all that kind of stuff. Well, let me correct that. I've heard Michael Mayer, when he's come and given his seminars, say that once you've given massive value, right, and people have asked him, hey, Michael, man, that was so awesome, thanks so much, what can I do for you? You know what his answer is? Referrals. Period. The R word. Capital R, capital E, capital FF, capital ERALS. Referrals. You really want to know what you can do for me? Referrals. But he's earned the right to, because they've asked him, you know what I mean? Hey, what can I really do for you? Hey, you know what? I don't want your gift card. Give me a referral. I can buy a lot of gift cards with one good referral. You know what I mean? And so and he follows up. Hey, look, best thing you can do for me is I'll treat him with the same respect I've treated you. I'll give him the same level of service. I would love to have that. And if you're asking me sincerely.
What's interesting is Mike Ferry. Again,
right.
I guess,
well, Michael's not new. I mean, he's a compilation of everybody. Well, he's a compilation of Ferry and Buffini and all these people all rolled into one.
Mike Ferry, he's a compilation of Tony
Robbins, right?
Hopkins.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, not Tony Robbins, but all the great. I mean, he's been around for 30 years.
Right.
He didn't do anything but present a synopsis of all the sales training I'd ever heard in my life.
Right.
Applied to real estate.
Sure.
So there was nothing new.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it was kind of, he was beaten. It was old.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was out of date. But he has a script for calling your sphere.
Uh-huh.
And it is like typical Mike Ferry. Hey, how you doing? This is a business call. Just need a few minutes. Do you know anybody that might want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? And then you press them further. People in your church, you help them.
Kind of memory jog a little bit with them.
It's a short phone call, and then it's thank you very much, and boom, that's it.
Right.
It's like sort of the anti
Michael Mayer. Right.
It's all about asking for the business.
Got it.
Doing it quickly,
right.
So that you're not wasting any time.
Right.
Not wasting your time. Not wasting your time. It's amazing.
Right.
The difference.
Right.
In the approach.
And I think that, by the way, have you done that?
No, I think it's crap.
Okay, very good. Because I think that after a while, people stop taking your call.
Yes.
Right. Because you stop making the call because you're tired of people not taking your call.
4 times a year. That call.
Yeah. That very same. Hey, this is business. So, like, hey, look, dude, change your script. Right. This is the same thing you left me. Exactly to the day. 3 months ago. You know what I mean? I look at my watch. I marked it. All right, and here it is. Right. And so I'm with you. I like the concept. Okay, the whole give massive value first was just natural. I said, boy, that is really cool. All right, you go do that enough times, good stuff comes back. All right, and if it never does, so what? You've done good things.
Well, the only issue with it, or negative, if you will, is that it's slow.
Sure.
It takes time. But you've given us enough.
That's right. That's why we also have the corn planting. Right. Exactly. But the cool thing about the corn planting is that the corn, this is some magical corn, because the corn eventually could fall off and some of the kernels fall off and become orange groves. You know what I mean? This is just magical, like Jack and the Beanstalk kind of corn, because eventually it can be, an orange grove that, that will, and the people that you've met through your corn planting, as you do it. So to take that to the, nth degree. So that's all great feedback. And you know what? Let's dig in a little bit and just see. Okay, so we talked about. Here's the thing. All right, I referenced it a little bit yesterday at the office meeting. Here's what I know. It's interesting because I've been doing the research, right? I've been looking at who's doing the business in this business, and it doesn't matter. Jim was laughing because a young lady threaded me. She was just getting into the business, and she somehow she's friending everybody she could find in real estate. They had real estate attached. So she friended one of our agents, who then she saw his friends and friended me. Thought I was the founder, CEO of Future Home Realty, right? So she's just taking her licensing and all that kind of stuff. So she's, being proactive and getting her on Facebook, right? So she's out there and just said something about, hey, I'm thinking about where I should go once I get my license. And so, of course, that's, raw meat in front of a tiger. So everybody's, throwing, and I stayed back, I laid back. I didn't jump on it right away. I wanted to, and of course everybody jumped in. And 80% of it was KW. You got to go to KW. You got to go to KW. KW is the best. KW is the best. KW is the best. What's interesting is I was doing my research because I'm looking to do the recruiting, as I said, and I found that the $2 to $5 million producer at Keller Williams is my prime wheelhouse, right? Because a $3 million producer made $90,000 and gave $21,000 to KW, all right, and at a minimum, if not more. Okay, what's that? More. Yeah, right, exactly. It's at the minimum. That $90,000, all right, instead of being $69,000, could be $86,000, and so that difference. Once you get to a $10, $20 million producer, $15 million producer, they're like, wait, you know what? I did $450,000 in commission, so they take 21. Big deal, all right. And so for them, it's like, okay, great. You don't see the advantage of the 17. I still would see the advantage of the 17, but that's me, all right. So I'm in there, but I started doing the research. Okay, who's doing 20? Who's doing 2 million or above? All right, at these offices? And the answer is 20%, people. And I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're at Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Berkshire Hathaway, Keller Williams, us, Charles Ruttenberg. It doesn't matter. Now, we're actually, I think we're at 23.7, all right, which is good. We're on the high side of that. Ruttenberg's at 19.6%, but they also have 1,200 realtors that are members of a board of realtors right here, the report I looked at. So larger numbers are hard to keep the percentages up, right? Small office, hey, we're at 80%. Well, there are only 4 of you, So I'm glad, that's great, you know what I mean? And so, you guys all had a good year, so that's great, all right? But try and do that with 400 or 800 and see if you can maintain those numbers, right? And so with that in mind, I'm just more and more convinced that the people who are going to make it in this business are the people who decide to make it in this business. Period. Now, you got to have some help, and everybody else, and we're here to do that. But if you decide, it's done. And so finally, I jumped in with this young lady, and I said, hey, look, here's the deal. I said, I'm the owner of a real estate company. I'm sure to tell you, you look like you're pretty motivated. I'm just sensing from what I'm hearing in the way you're planning this all out and doing it. And that's great. I said, take that attitude and you'll be successful no matter where you go. Okay, I said, here's what I'm finding. And I laid out the 80%, that don't do it and 20% that do, no matter what. I said, so at the end of the day, what you have to ask yourself, if I'm going to decide to do it, then shouldn't I keep what I rightfully have decided to make? And the answer is, that's why most people won't tell you. I will. I encourage you to check that out. Make that part of your equation and go. And so she ended up going to Exit or somebody.
To that is the washout rate for new agents.
Sure, absolutely.
90%.
Well, sure. Well, if 80% are doing less than 2 million, right? And by the way, you take it to 3 million and above, now you're talking about there's about 96%. Only 4% are doing 3 million or above. So that gap between 2 and 3 covers another 16% of people. So it really starts to get narrow, all right? And you get in that range. And what are we here to do? We're here to teach you how to net 100, so you'd be in that range, right? Because if you're netting 100, you're doing 3.5, with us. At least you're doing more than that if you're at Century 21, Okay, so with that in mind, how do we get there? Now, some of you are already there. If you're doing it, great. If you've got a source, don't plant corn if you don't need the corn. All right? That's all I can tell you. But if you're looking for some faster stuff that's not going to take as much time as what orange groves might be taking, I still believe Sherry Lowry is still looking for people at both flea markets. They've got a better location here at the Oldsmar flea market. It's
They are in, because.
yeah, they're in. She was just and they actually had an off kind of in that they're out on the main aisle now.
Okay.
And so she said it's a young guy, not a young guy, a guy that's actually has a full-time job doing something else. He's an engineer that comes to 100K at night. Todd, 13 leads last Saturday. All right, sitting right there. It's just a great location. So it's here, and it's also at the Wagon Wheel. If you don't want to do bank-owned open houses, try that. Maybe go back and forth. But here's the thing I'm also learning is I'm making my calls to these people, and I'm doing the consistency is imperative. All right, I'm just telling you that the habit of doing it once, taking 3 weeks off, doing it again, taking 2 weeks off, doing maybe one more time or two in a row, then taking another 3 weeks off is not going to get it done. I'm just here to tell you, you're not going to be rewarded with that. Okay? Today and tomorrow, I have 3 meetings set up, solid meetings set up with KW Cappers in Orlando based upon 4 days solid of hour of power phone calls I made last week. Okay? Now, I didn't get any of day 1 or day 2 or day 3. Day 4, I followed up with some that might, hey, yeah, send me some info. And what I found, well, we'll talk about that when we get to time blocking a little bit. I'm just telling you what I'm learning too, because I have to be, accountable to this stuff as well, because I need to get that up and running out there. So I've put in, but the funny thing is, boy, it's amazing. When I put in the effort, the results come. Shock of all shocks. It's amazing to me. So many times I just want the results without the effort, right? Why aren't they just calling me? Why aren't these agents just finding us in Orlando, right?
By the way, sort of, maybe to help you with what they were doing in my office, which was good for recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
The team leader, whatever.
Right.
He would basically say, "You just give me a name, and then I'll call."
Right.
And I'll call. I could give you a dozen people at Keller Williams where we were that would be so flattered if you called them and you attempted to recruit them, that give
them to me.
That would be a great way for you to
give them to me, and we'll give you credit for that. That's all we need, right, Jim?
Yeah.
Give us a name.
Yeah, and same thing.
Right.
Yeah, they went in their downline and all
right.
that other stuff.
Exactly.
You know, the guy, he recruited him. If you gave him the name, you got credit for it.
Right. Absolutely. So same thing here. All right, give us the name. That's we're all about. That's why we handed out close to $30,000 worth of checks yesterday. All right, for people who had given us a name. All right, and so that's all we're looking to do. But again, it's just a reminder for me that the consistency is imperative, and doing the work is imperative, right? That it's real natural to just want results without the work, right? And the cornfield says, no seed, no corn, right? No seed, no water, no fertilization, no little bit of effort, then sorry, no corn. And I think we get caught up sometimes. So why isn't it working for me? Well, why aren't you working? And that's the hard question to answer sometimes, or hard discussion to have. So we're going to continue with this. I'll be honest with you, I've got a lot of stuff going on up in Tennessee for the next probably 4 to 6 weeks, trying to get some stuff taken care of up there with a sale and a move and everything else. So you're more than welcome to jump. I'm not going to promise that I'll be on the conference call every Friday, all right? But there may be people there. So just jump on, see if anybody. Tyler's been doing it. Tyler's a great resource. Tyler's been.
Last time.
Yeah. I asked him to lead it last time. So in particular. So. Hey, come on. Yeah. Absolutely.
Somebody's notepad there.
That's right. You're good.
Yeah, you might like the other meeting though.
Yeah, that's the cash flow 101 game.
Yeah, she's a big Dave Ramsey guy.
Gotcha. And actually, that's the Kiyosaki version of it basically teaches you how to. Have you ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad? Mm-hmm. Okay, it's going through that concept. It's a game that teaches you how to get out of the rat race. and into passive income. That's the whole
We've got the
purpose of it.
kids version, and actually we finally brought it up. I think I had it for my kids, and then we got the second set of kids.
Ah, see?
I finally brought it out, and she really liked it.
That's awesome.
I've
See?
got
Dave
friends.
Ramsey.
Oh, that's the Dave Ramsey one, right? Cool.
Kids
Yeah,
version.
right.
Yeah.
And that's good too, because that basically teaches you sound financial principles, right? And how to get yourself
I
out of
thought That
debt.
was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which I was sort of surprised.
Yeah. That's right. Teach them the debt snowball before they need the debt snowball.
Right.
Exactly. Get that done. So anyway, so feel free to jump on. It's going to be kind of like an open party line. There might be people there. If you get hold music for 5 minutes after, if it's 10:05, then just jump off. All right. And I may be there sometimes. I may not be. All right. So just, if you're looking for it, if not, we're going to keep the Facebook group page going. All right. On 100K. Use that as a vital source of, it's a lot of good stuff going back and forth there. People sharing.
By the way, Jim in our office,
Hurley. Yep.
All he does is bank on.
Yeah.
Is that true? I mean, that's what he's told us. His whole business is based on that.
That's, his whole business and people he's meeting. And it's funny because he was at he went to the evening meeting last time.
Yeah.
And he told us he's got about 2.7 under contract right now, ready to close in the next 6 weeks. All right. Now, one of it's a $1.1 million deal, but he said, Bob, and I can't directly attribute that to, hey, look, I met somebody at a bank-owned open house. All I know is when I do the work, stuff starts happening. You know what I mean? And so maybe that's the clog that needed to be unjammed, that, hey, look, whatever you want to point to, I would point to that the Bible teaches us that he's not going to give us what we don't deserve, that kind of thing. Or if you're faithful with little, you'll be faithful with much, and so on and so forth. So with that in mind, just stuff starts to happen. Again, it's the karma, it's the whatever you want to call it. But as you start putting in effort and making consistent work done, then good things, and that Jim is just a huge, man. He said, hey, Bob, I'm telling you, I heard this 3 years ago, and I did it once or twice and had some good success and forgot all about it, and I'm so glad it should be. What's that?
The quote, I don't know, it might have been Henry Ford, the harder I work, the luckier I am.
Yeah, right. I love that line. It is. It's so true.
Jim does Wednesday, Thursday open house.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even like weekends.
No, exactly.
Late on a Wednesday and a
Yeah.
Thursday. And
He purposefully does that by choice and has found that to be a very successful time. So again, I know it's not the funnest thing to do. All right. It's not what we envisioned when we were studying for our real estate exam. I get it. 100%. All right. And if you're busy enough, don't. Right. But if you're not, try it. I dare you.
I've gotten the signs. Does that
Okay.
count as the work?
That's the lead up to the work. Okay? You've tilled the soil. All right. You've tilled the soil. All right.
A lot of time getting ready to do the work.
Right, but imagine when you plant that in the ground, that sign, that's actually like planting a seed. Okay, so that's the corn seed.
You ordered the corn seeds.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's right. You just haven't planted them yet. Good point. That's exactly. That's the analogy
They
we'll
haven't
use.
even been delivered yet.
That's
You
right.
still gotta put them in the ground.
That's right. That's a good point. Great job, Jim.
Coming from a farmer.
That's right. Jim understands.
Former farmer.
And by the way, remember I told you yesterday why Jeanette recommended I hire Jim? I was like, Jim? 10 years ago, it's because she said, look, he worked on a farm. Work ethic is all you're hiring. That's all you hire is work ethic. You can teach the rest, right? That's what the whole disc profile teaches you, right? Hey, you hire what you need to get that done. So anyway, it's out there. By the way, we're going to talk at the end too. The last night's group is committed to, and I'm going to encourage you because we're going to take a break, all right, from this. But I'm going to encourage still community. I think it's vital. All right. There's one thing being community on the group page. That's good, but it's not the same as being here eyeball to eyeball, face to face. I'm just telling you. So, and I'm going to leave it up to you guys to organize what that might look like. So pay attention to the Facebook group page. It might be
something on this morning.
Yeah.
Last night's group.
Right, and just because they're last night's group doesn't mean you're not allowed to join. You can, jump in, but they've already starting to rearrange when they're going to maybe it's once a month they all get together as a group. There might be subgroups on the other times, every other week, just getting together and just sharing. But I encourage you, there's value in the community of sharing ideas, sharing successes, and celebrating those. overcoming, boo-boos, if you will. Even when we insist the thumb's not broken, but it really is, all right? Let me take that scat and reopen that thing. Where is it? But he was saying how intuitive you are and how you, all right, exactly. It's amazing to me how knowledgeable she is, and she could just see that it was broken, and to get that.
If men ruled the world, we'd all be walking around.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't go to the doctor. I can't pick anything up, but I didn't go to the doctor, dadgummit. That's right, see? Exactly. They're mentally and emotionally scarred for years. So it's a good thing that they can heal that too. So, all right. So, and here's Chuck, to your point. All right. This is the line that blew you away back in the day, I'm sure. All right. The very first one was, if you want more listings, work with more buyers. And finally, somebody's validating what I've been feeling. All right. And it's so true. I mean, it just happens, right? It's more chances to meet people. And listings come, it's a byproduct of the work. And again, I'm not saying if you're good at doing what you're doing to generate listings, you know what I mean? If that cold call concept and or door knocking and or sending out some mailers has been working for you, great. I'm not saying totally go away from it. Okay, good. Then don't, right? Exactly. And then
I'm sorry, I'm good at it, I just hate it.
Right, see? Here's the thing. I'm telling you, read the Buckingham stuff. Because he's going to sit there and say, he says, you know what, you might be really good at it, but at the end of the day, after having done it for even 3 hours, you're totally drained, then it's not a strength. Just because you're good at it doesn't mean you're good. It doesn't mean it's a strength. He redefines what a strength is. In essence, it's this. Remember how Kiyosaki redefines asset? Something that creates cash flow in a story, period, bam, that's it, right? In Buckingham, he says, here's a strength. After you do it, do you feel strong? Period. Pretty simple. But man, I felt good. I enjoyed that. That's a strength, right? That's a natural strength. I'm good at it, but after done, I was like, God, I hope I never have to do that again, or I knock that off the list. And there's some things that we have to do, but don't call them a strength. Just because you do it and you get it done doesn't mean it's a strength. Okay, so you'll like the stuff when you investigate him. All right. So what has been? This is just kind of a wrap up of everything. Of all the things that we studied, and what has been the most impactful thing you've learned in the 7 levels of communication? Anybody? Chuck's been sharing with us a little bit.
It's simple things.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Really can make a huge difference. We're not talking, really difficult stuff here.
Right.
It's just a matter of doing and getting consistent and making it part of your habit.
Awesome. And I agree that the little things make the biggest difference. And it's small tweaks. That's the good news, is right, that it takes just a small tweak that I can adjust some things. And it generally can be things that I might enjoy doing better than what I was taught by the fairy system or whatever, that I was doing begrudgingly, but because someone else had success with it, I figured, let me give it a shot. Kev.
What I like most is the give massive value first concept, because I swear that's what I've always tried to do. I started doing sales in '98 for a title company, and my boss would just chew my ass because you didn't ask for the business. You walked out without saying, what do you have for me right now? I'm like, I want to go and be friends with these people. I want to bring some value to them. And I don't know if I said it that way, but it's cool to dispel.
Right. You didn't know, but that's what you felt.
but this is focused on that, and I think that's just huge. It's everything.
Isn't it so freeing?
I had a meeting with an experienced agent and an experienced loan officer yesterday, and I was connecting the two of them. I've always been a connector. I think that's huge also. And the agent said to maybe she read the book, but she said to the loan officer, as soon as they hit it off, she's like, well, what can I do to help you other than give you business? Right. He was floored. He has 20 years in the business. He said, no agent's ever said that to me.
Right.
And that was the whole thing, is it's typically him trying to, or that position trying to pry business out of the agent, and she was like, let me give, and then we'll talk.
and maybe she has read the book, or if not, maybe she's more intuitive than I was before I read the book.
Right.
It took me reading the book. But, you talk about, remember the ABCs of selling, right? Always be closing. I think Michael would say always be caring, right? If you start there, then, and it's a lot more fun. It's a more natural, and I agree with you, Kevin. I think you are a natural connector. Ever since, I remember the first day we met, you're a natural connector. You're looking for, you've always introduced me to other lenders and that kind of things that could be beneficial to my business, all right? And as a result, like you bring in Brenly in, she should be a huge resource for you bringing business to you, because I guarantee, she's going to get inundated with our agents. This is going to be a good intro for her.
Yeah, and
Right.
I'll never say to her, okay, now what are you going to do for me?
No.
Because it'll just happen.
She'll feel obligated, right, to throw it back.
Right.
And that's, it's funny that you mentioned and all of that, because I agree. I think the main gist of this book is the generosity portion, right? To give massive value first. And so it's funny when Michael came in a year ago, we brought Michael in, and he did a huge, Kevin was instrumental in that. We had like 328 people or something in the room at the Marriott in Tampa, and brought him in, had a big event. So I got a chance to meet with him and chat with him a bit night before, and then we did an event in Orlando as well. And he, I said, Michael, I said, now that I've studied your book a little bit more, it's awesome. I said, but quite frankly, the 7 levels of communication, that's good. That's a good portion of the book, but I think it's kind of, it's good, but it's like kind of a minor, I said, why not call it the generosity generation or something like that? I said, that, I think to me, that's more, he goes, that's a thought. I said, yeah, maybe just think about that. And he goes, yeah, when you write a book, go ahead and do that. And I said, all right, touche. He said, and, actually, and what was the name of your book, Bob? And I said, yeah. But to that point, I think it's more important than the 7. I think it's a little bit of a misnomer, right? Because I'll be honest with you, Tim and Heidi, who you guys remember, I recommend you guys had a chance to
We tried to look up
connect. All right, very good. They recommended. They knew Michael from a Star Power. They were in a Star Power together, and they recommended probably 18 months prior to me even reading the book the first time. They had recommended, hey, 7 levels of communication. And like I said, what's that? Oh, it's a really good book. You should maybe have some of our agents read it. All right, just come out. And I said, all right. Well, so all I thought was like love languages. You know what I mean? That the 7 levels of communication, the way, someone like is gifts of service is their love language. And I said, I've read that. And so I didn't investigate it. And there goes me again, right? Just automatically jumping to an assumption and making that fact in my head, right? So that's what that book's about, even though I never read it. And so it took me another 18 months before another one of our agents said, hey, you got to read this, right? And check it out. So with that being said, I'm with you, Kevin, that the generosity cycle, the whole thing where that starts the circle, and how much more fun that is than actually going out and going, hey, this is a business call, all right? Let me just right now, who do you know is looking to buy or sell real estate? Bet. That's not a call I wanted to make, all right? But hey, this is a social call. How are you doing? That's a lot easier call to make, right? Or writing a note to them, all right? Or just following up with something, or sending them hey, I was thinking about you, and send them a little something stupid, all right? Who's it? Bob Dixon, who now lives in the Philippines. Where does he live? Somewhere in the Philippines? Okay, all right. He was going around, I guess, Wendy's was doing these little tiny Frosties for like a dime. You could get 10 for $1 or something like that. So there's a Wendy's here. He would go around and go buy like 20 of them, and just as fast as he could, just go hand them out to some people that he knew. Hey, it was hot and it was in July. All right. He brought one into me. I was like, dude, this is perfect, man. This is just what I need right now. And it was a conversation starter for him with these people. All right, it's just little stupid stuff, but it's, hey, man, I was thinking about it's hot out there right now. How's a Frosty, right? It's 2:00. You need a little break, all right? Wherever you are, go drop it off. You know what I mean? Doing whatever that is, all right? And I'm just thinking outside the box and doing something different. That's it. How about anybody else?
I like the first intent.
Yeah.
And I started using it diligently when it was first presented, and I've gone off a little bit, but I want to go back to it because it really helped me organize my day. And Pam reminds me on this, sort of closing out the day by cleaning up your desk and all that kind of stuff. I don't do that. I'm not sure I see the value in it, but because it takes time and I just mess it up first thing when I come in the next day. But I think there's there is value to that, and it feeds into the 1st and 10, which you probably should do that evening before the next day. That's
part of the pre-leave ritual, right?
Yes.
And I think that's the most important part of the pre-leave ritual is creating the 1st and 10. Remember, the twofold purpose behind that is A, it's fresh on your mind. You know what you need to do first thing in the morning, and I guarantee you're going to save yourself 45 minutes tomorrow morning by creating your 1st and 10 the night before or the afternoon before or whatever. Just having that stuff written down in the names and everybody you need to call or email right there as a list. And then remember the second thing that I found is important by doing that is gets it off my head and onto paper, and it frees me to go be my other role. Okay? My role as dad, as husband, as other things, as opposed to role as CEO of Future Home Realty. Right? And so and same thing with anybody else, right? It allows you to get into that other role without having this other stuff kind of still floating. I'm a huge proponent of all 4 rituals. All right. Probably if I had to choose, I can't choose any of them. I think all of them are great. If I had to rank them, it'd probably be the pre-leave because that's a part of the 1st and 10. The Sunday night, I'm a firm believer in planning your week, right, and getting that locked down. The morning ritual, as far as the affirmations, get yourself up and going and having a defined, here's what I've got going on. And then still the pre-sleep or the, just a quick reflection of my day and just see where I'm going, try and clear my brain so that I have a good night of rest, kind of thing. Jim?
That 1st and 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only problem I have with that
is
that if it involves another person, I can't rest.
Oh,
if it's something I would keep my 1st and 10, just as me personally.
Right.
My 1st and 10 would be things that I have to do for myself tomorrow.
Right. But you're saying
not make a call back, not deliver something to somebody, or email somebody. That all has to get done before I have to clear.
Gotcha.
Try to clear my desk.
Gotcha. Would be.
I email people at like midnight because I'm like, I just gotta get it out.
Right. And that's fair enough.
And I'm sleeping all night going, I bet they're waiting. I feel like the other person's sitting at me like, where's that email? Where's that email?
I'm a little bit like that.
Oh my God, drives me nuts if it's somebody else involved.
I got all my critical things done.
Right.
Then I can make my list for what to do tomorrow.
Perfect.
But I gotta know that I've at least responded to everybody that's kind of.
And I'll buy that. I will. And I don't know that would be part of your 1st and 10 for tomorrow because it's actually part of your to-do today. Right, exactly. But I'm with you because, hey, look, man, I'm a firm believer in doing what you say. And I think it comes back so much on you that, hey, man, if I told somebody I was going to have this contract to them or this listing in the MLS, I promised the seller it would be in the MLS today, then dadgum at 11:45, I don't care, it's going to be in, all right?
Yeah, because at that point, you're doing it for yourself as much as for them so you can get it off your mind.
Right.
Like I think when emails first started being on your phone, I thought that was so cool, and I still do, it's great. But I would, as I'm trying to go to sleep at midnight, I would be looking at my emails, boom, here's 3 issues that happened since 9 p.m., that there's no way I can address, but now I'm not going to sleep.
Right.
So I don't look at it past like 7, because if somebody sent me something past 7, it can be addressed the next morning, because I work early the next day.
Sure.
And I'm going to do a better job of addressing it the next morning if I get some sleep by not thinking about it.
Correct. That is so true. I've taken that to the nth degree, and Jeanette and I have had this discussion. I've stopped, if I come home and it's after 4:30 in Tennessee, all right, meaning it's or after 5:30 here, so anything I can do, all right, I don't look at the mail till the next morning.
And I took one of Michael's, his personal examples totally to heart, where he said, in the seminar, he said that he's totally available all these times except Sunday because that's Sunday. So S-U-N day is S-O-N day.
Right.
Son.
Right.
And he's absolutely focused on him.
Right.
And, I have my kids half the time, and the weekends that I have them, you're going to have a hell of a time getting me on the phone or getting me to do something because that's what I'm doing.
That's
the weekends I don't have them, I'm probably here working. I'll take care of everything.
Right.
You have to just shift your focus away from what you're doing.
Agreed, because this business can beat you up if you let it, right? If you get to that point where, it becomes all-consuming, All right, then it becomes not fun, and then you're not very good. All right, because you're not having fun, and you're not, and not that I'm not saying work has to be fun all the time, because there's not. I mean, it's, there are some things we do in this thing are not fun. Well, guess what? So does the guy mowing the lawn and roofing the roof. All right, and it's not fun for them either. All right, but we want to provide. So, great point. So first and 10th, all right, is something that was impaired. Anybody else have a takeaway? Randy, you have anything that was a good? Andy, sorry.
That's okay. I was just blown away by the whole thing. I don't think I've read a book since college.
Right, awesome.
So, and my life is just mass chaos.
Right.
I have 4 kids, so it's
right.
a total zoo. Just the whole thing of structure, just which I'm trying to do.
Right.
Just caught me, the whole thing.
Awesome.
It wasn't anything in
nothing in particular, just the whole.
Yeah, I've actually read it twice.
Awesome.
Already. So,
good.
That's what I got from it.
Perfect.
That doesn't count as 2 books. It's
But he's read 7 Habits too. Yeah, so that counts as the second book. So that's awesome, great. And Evelyn,
pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, just kind of the
I read
whole.
it twice too.
Right, awesome.
But yeah, I have on my phone. It comes up Google to remind me to contact past clients.
Good.
I look at it. That's the good part.
Yeah.
The bad part is I say, oh yeah.
Dismiss or right. I'll get
so
that next time.
Get into that.
Accountability structure and right time blocking. Good. Because we're
put them
gonna.
at a time that they're gonna pop up. Gotta do it.
Catch this. They had some. I'll make sure that I'll remind them to post. Last night's group had several apps that they were using for because they've gotten high tech. There's one. Is it Phone Me or I'll ask them to remind. There are a couple really good apps that came up last night about reminders. Okay, and how you can kind of create, you can speak your first intent into your phone and it creates it and actually creates a list that you can actually, then line through and everything else. Because I said, can you line through? Because that's very important for me on a list. All right, I said, I have she goes, matter of fact, yeah, this one, and she did it, and it had like da-da-da-da. It was like, it kind of, gave you like that a boy or that a girl kind of, thing. I said, that's awesome. It is cool. And so I'll get those apps to you because there's that one. And then Tyler came up with one. We were talking about time blocking that, he found this one. What is the name of it? Time management. It's basically it tracks your time for you. Okay. Now you have to set it up properly, right? But you sit there and say, okay, Facebook on these certain pages is productive time. Facebook on general news feed, non-productive time, right? So he does that. At the end of the day, it tracks everything he does, right? At least computer related, and gives him a report and says, okay, you spent so much. Now, again, you can lie to the things. It's all productive, right? And so you're going to get what garbage in, garbage out. But I thought that was a really cool one. It's kind of, any financial person would tell you, okay, if you want to get better at saving money, then the first step is to write down everything you spend, right? Want to lose weight? Write down everything you eat, right? Because we got to know where you are. So, same thing. You want to save time or to get better at your time management, we got to write down everything we do. I mean, to the minute, so we understand where time, there might be some times that we can, tweak a little bit and do that. But I'll make sure that they post those apps because they were all writing them down, whatever they were. All right, so good. So that's the most impactful thing. Here's the next question. What are you doing now that you were not doing before you read the book?
Affirmation.
Awesome. I saw that. That was a great post. That your daughter added one, right? That's awesome. That was good. Yeah, that's right. I saw that. Very cool. Affirmations, that's a great one because that's part of the morning ritual. I'm a huge believer in that. Someone just reposted, DM just reposted that little girl. It's up to the front of the thread now. If you get a chance, take a look at it. There's a little girl that does her affirmations on the mirror.
Oh,
have you seen
yeah,
it? Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, take a look at it. It's funny. It's good. All right, anybody else?
I think just structure, just in general, trying, maybe not a specific principle from the book, but just trying to have, being cognizant of my lack of structure personally, and trying to, just constantly trying to improve that, and it has improved a lot, especially cleaning the desk.
Yeah.
That's something that I don't do every day, but when I do, it's crazy. My closer, they'll walk in and they'll be like, wow, your desk is brown. I thought it was white.
Yeah,
I just have stuff everywhere.
Right.
And it's crazy when I have a client meeting or something, and I just organize my desk or make it look organized, I feel totally different than when it's always in front of my face in chaos. You know, so and that's always been a struggle of mine, is just personal organization and structure. My company's not very structured, and I like it that way,
right?
Because that's how I am,
right?
But it's bitten me in the rear a few times. You know, when you have an employee who needs a time clock, who needs to be micromanaged, who needs to be forced not to stay on Facebook all day long.
Right.
Just don't do those things.
Right.
And it sets them up for failure. So I'm trying to get more structure in my life and in my business. And I think
Awesome.
folks played a role in that.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. That's cool. That's good. Because there is freedom in structure, right? Man, that's one of our favorite lines. There's freedom in structure. That oxymoronic phrase that, man, the more structure. You know what? And by the way, when you meet with a client, and I firmly believe no one would be offended that your desk is clean, but potentially could be offended that, I don't know if I want to do business with this guy if your desk is messy.
Yeah.
So err on that side, right? You know what I mean? You're going to do
I
that.
had a lady walk in and say, wow, nice office. And I thought she was serious. And I said, thanks. And then she called me Oscar Madison.
So, okay, yeah, that's not the right odd couple. That's not the guy I want to be on the odd couple. Yeah, exactly. But it's true. Again, I think you're going to. Was it? Oh, I think I was telling maybe Jim or Maureen. Now it's funny because sometimes when I would travel, I'd travel pretty casual. If I didn't have anything going that day, if I was just shorts and a t-shirt, tennis shoes, and just kind of not shave that day, and just get down there and say, I'm gonna have to shave 3 days in a row, and I'm down here, so let me just take care of it, not shave today. But what I'm learning now that Joseph got accepted into that school, right? There has not been a time since now that I know where he's going that I haven't met a alumni, a parent, a fellow parent from and Jeanette now doesn't let me out of the house knowing I'm getting on a plane just because that reflects on him, right? And so it's imperative, you know what I mean? You're never going to err on the side of, that. So I'm conscientious now of when I travel or, when I have somebody in my office, if you will, that, hey, look, you never know, who that, and it's not, even if it's not, hey, look, no big deal for me. Well, if I'm potentially not giving the best image for my son, then that's something I need to consider, you know what I mean, as well, and think outside of that. So that's cool. Thank you. Anybody else? Something that you're doing? Go first and tense. Yeah. That's good.
Well, and I think for me it's the same thing. It's just making me so much more aware, and I kind of feel like, okay, I need to do the course again so I can get another, couple of steps in. But
right.
It's just an awareness and starting to go toward more structure. And I am a structured person. I mean, I kind of need things a certain way. And we're going to start with Brindley.
Good. All right.
So anyway, that hopefully.
And full disclosure, Chuck gave us a little bit. Well, here's the thing, and I want to lead into this because this is a good discussion that people will want to hear on this video. All right, is that we're all just bearing our souls for the world here, right?
Might have to pay you $100.
That's right, exactly. Get the couch in the back, exactly. No, but I understand you because I didn't easily part with the money. All right, but I think it's a business expense, so you better be able to justify the expense, like anything, right? It's never an expense if it returns a greater value than you spend. Now it becomes an investment.
Right.
But how do we take Brindley's fee and make that an investment? Well, we're going to have to be structured and disciplined to make sure that it's not just more time for me to watch Law and Order, but now it's more time for me to go be more productive. Because I was telling Chuck before you got here that the sign for me was when I put 12 properties under contract in 1 month, no properties under contract in the second month. And I started tracking. I said, what's going on here? And the answer was, well, you're so busy closing the 12 that you wrote last time, there's no time to write new business.
Right, and that's the way I have felt the last 3 months. I mean, that's not 12.
But I understand.
Still,
yeah.
You've got 5.
Yeah, that's a lot.
5 contracts, 5 buyers, and you're doing all this other stuff. It's like, and I was spending hours on on transaction stuff.
Right.
And then, so what am I doing now? How many contracts do I have? Well, not very many.
Right, because your pipeline tends to go like this, and it makes sense why it does, but if there's an answer for it, and I think truly that it's, and it's so much easier to outsource. You don't know, the beauty of real estate, the reason I love owning a real estate company is 99.8% of the money I touch is 1099 subcontractors, right? There is value, having been a business owner yourself, there is value in not having many employees, all right? Okay, employees are your biggest overhead and or potentially, even though I have one of my employees in the room, all right, he's not a problem, but, well, but they're also, you don't want employees because they're the hardest to get rid of, all right, and they can cause problems for you because they have rights that 1099 subcontractors don't, and you know what I mean? And so all this comes into play, that, hey, look, man, so take advantage of that, outsource and just hire a bunch of independent contractors rather than bring on an assistant. Everybody wants to, let me get an assistant and make him an employee. Don't do it.
Well,
Right.
that's the discussion I had with Rachel. She said, I need to hire an assistant. I said, no, you need to look at this as an option.
Yeah.
And not only, and it's incremental.
Yeah.
If you're busy, you're paying.
Exactly.
If you're not busy,
you're not paying. Exactly.
That's what Rob Danbury was saying yesterday. He said that he was saying just a couple months ago that he needs an assistant, and now he's saying, I need to be an assistant.
Exactly. Right, exactly.
If he was paying, someone $10 an hour when he's really slow, he's losing money.
Right, exactly.
A per deal coordinator is paid when it closes, just like the rest of us.
Right. And someone who gets it only gets paid if it closes.
Right.
There's motivation on her end, and on her team's end to make sure that deal, do everything they can to keep it together. So.
Now, to that point,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking, it's not just the real estate business.
Right.
Yeah, everything gets subcontracted.
Sure.
Now, and
Right.
you can.
Right.
And but sometimes in our business we go too far because you can. An example: the other day I was looking, just goofing, finding something on Realtor.com.
Right.
And you can count it. Like within 2 minutes, I get a phone call.
Right.
See, you're on Realtor.com. You're
Yeah.
in the house. You want Well, the person I was speaking to had an accent.
Uh-huh.
And I know that it's sort of common to
Right.
to outsource
Sure.
to the Philippines.
Right.
So I was getting chatty with her, and before it's done, I go, are you a realtor?
Mm-hmm.
No. I'm just, and she explained basically that, she sets up appointments for the realtor, and I said, by any chance, are you in this country?
Right.
And she said, no, she's
Right.
in Manila.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
now, she
it.
was very nice.
Right.
She wasn't as good as I would be or you would be.
No, right, exactly.
It was a little mechanical.
Sure.
So,
flipping through pages. Okay, he said this.
So
What's my
I'm done with
script
it.
on
I'm
that?
thinking, you pay a lot of money for these Realtor.com leads. I really think someone, and
Sure.
I actually happen to know who the realtor was, he's just taking this maybe too far.
Right. I agree that, hey, look, he's probably going to get more bang for his buck if he actually made the phone call himself.
This person
Right.
would never set an appointment
Right.
the way that she was going. Maybe he's just trying it.
Right.
But I know that you can hire people for $5 an
Yeah,
hour.
right. You can.
And they'll do anything.
Sure. Yeah. Brian Heckman, by the way, will teach you all day long how to get your videos edited and all that kind of stuff for about 17 cents. Because he, has a guy that, does all that stuff. And
There's a website called Fiverr.
yeah, absolutely. People, we've talked about it, and you can get a lot of things done for $5. So, and there's certain things that can be done.
But that's not building relationships.
Right, exactly.
Mechanical stuff that you don't want to do anyway.
Right, exactly. That you're not going to do, so that you can go return that call from Realtor.com because someone else is taking care of ordering the termite inspection. Right, you know what I mean, and doing that stuff.
And the other thing, this was the small first step we took in outsourcing, was just doing centralized showings.
Uh-huh.
It's like,
Yeah.
should that be it?
Yeah, right.
That's way sooner. And I was
Uh-huh.
talking to somebody else about that the other day, and they go, "Oh, you do that?" I said, "Oh my gosh." And so they signed up for it because she was talking about how she was answering phones all weekend, just
Yeah.
because she had a listing or two.
Right.
I'm like, oh my Lord.
What if you had more? Right, exactly. Yeah, get that off your.
And leading into Brindley, our next step, if it's anything like centralized showing,
Sure.
this will be.
I think you're going to be amazed at how freeing that's going to be, and that it won't take much to justify that cost. I really, truly, you're going to find that in a heartbeat.
Well, in centralized showing, I've turned it into a positive in our listing presentation.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, by the way,
Yeah.
when people want to show your house, the realtors, 24/7, they call this number. They pursue the realtor for feedback.
Mhm.
I get all this stuff. I've got all their email addresses. I can send them stuff, and it's amazing. And people, they understand it. I'm not going to set these things up.
Right.
But if I was doing it, maybe I don't answer the phone at 8:00.
Right, or you don't answer the phone, or you're in the middle of something else, and you're like, yeah, go ahead and show it. And who was that they called? You don't even remember who it was. They've got it a lock, stock, locked in, their MLS ID and everything else. So I think that's a win.
Well, I can see the same thing with Burnley, like she was saying yesterday. It's like, you can call her anytime. You may not be able to
Right.
get me, I may be on the road.
Right.
Brinley's a big time blocker. And there are certain
Well,
times
I mean,
you can't
but
get her.
Right, and that's fine.
And I asked her once,
Right.
when we were thinking about her last year,
Mhm.
I was trying to reach her for something, and I couldn't get her. So, when I called her, I said, oh, by the way,
Mhm.
tried to call you this morning,
Right.
and she explained to me how she time blocks.
Mhm.
And I understood, because Keller Williams teaches it.
Right.
I knew exactly what she was talking about.
Right.
But she's so organized.
Right.
And on it with everything, and it impressed me.
Right. And that's what you want in a closing coordinator. Trust me on that.
Well, and she didn't
Yeah.
make any excuses. She
Right.
just told me.
Yeah.
Along the lines of time block, a little bit off the subject, but I've been impressed with Brian Heckman, and I think it's still the same way, but if you call and get his voicemail, he tells you, I return calls between this time and this time, and between this time and this time.
Mhm.
And I haven't been brave enough to put that on my greeting,
Mhm.
because I don't do that.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I call you back, I'm calling people at 9 o'clock, they just got to my voicemail.
Right.
sometimes. And, but that's great, because right there,
Well, that's in the 7 levels.
It is. That's perfect.
his accountability partner is the person leaving the message, because he just promised him he's gonna call me
Yeah.
at 3 o'clock. And if he doesn't,
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're going to utilize that greeting, remember, I think one of your first intents each morning would be to check to make sure your greeting is sufficient for the day. Meaning, hey, yesterday I said 12 and 1 and 4 and 5, right? Today I'm looking at my schedule. That ain't happening. I'm showing property 11 to 2:30, so 12 and 1 isn't going to work. So I better change that to 10 and 11 and 3 and 4 or whatever, so that you can just real quick re-record your greeting if you're going to, so that you are, because you can't promise and not deliver on that, right? And that's people would be very frustrated if you don't.
What a great app that would be for your phone.
Jim does something.
You can go on your Google and just change your times, and then the greeting just changes itself.
Oh, yeah, right. That would be awesome. Yeah, right.
No, 12,
Yep. That would be good.
Yep.
Jim does something, which I really noticed because you can be a little hard to reach some.
His auto reply, you mean?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
get text back.
Yep.
Now I don't know how to do that, but
Oh, that's on your. Well, if you have it on your phone, I have it on mine, and Jim does it to me all the time too. So don't be offended.
But it's a text.
Yeah, it's an auto text.
Show him here, Jim. Is your phone here?
How do you do that?
Watch him.
It's a Samsung, number one.
Let me call you.
You got it.
It's not a Samsung.
You probably got it.
Okay, let me call you, Jim, real fast. And
The main reason I do this is because
no, it's cool.
No, I want you to.
I like it.
I want to acknowledge,
Okay.
when I do it, I feel like I acknowledge that you called me, so you're like, okay, well, you sent me that. But like, if I just let it go and go and go, that means my phone's not near me, so it's probably, I missed your call, and I'll probably get to it eventually, but yeah. So you're like, he's calling in, I said, it's at the very bottom, you flip it up, and then I rearrange what they say. So like, somewhere I'm in a meeting, somewhere I'm on the line, don't leave me a message, I'll call you right back, that kind of stuff. So I can just, it's a
Samsung.
This one's a note. Then I have one that says, I'm only available by text right now. You can leave me a voicemail, but please allow me time to get
Yeah, you're in a training session or you're in a meeting that, hey, I can return a text, but I can't.
I just been looking at it.
Yeah.
I just sent you a text in the middle of that.
Okay, yeah. So already, Jim, he was in a meeting with us right now. So now I have a text from Jim that says,
You can select a different text.
Yeah.
I got
And look.
Make your own.
yeah, and you can even make your own. You can personalize it.
There's already some on there.
I scare most people. They're like, how'd you type it that fast?
Yeah, right.
You're wrong like once. Yeah, like,
Yeah, because here's his response. Hey, I'm only available by text right now. You may leave a voice message, but please allow a longer period of time for response.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is,
So,
that's great.
Yeah.
I can change
Next time,
those.
just look up.
Yeah. You can personalize it to whatever you want. So, that's it. Yeah, it's a great concept. So, so Kevin, I'm with you. That's a, and the other thing Brian Heckman has taught me in time blocking is I've been in his office and we'll be having a meeting or discussing back mostly when we were doing the mic, and so someone will call and he goes, man, I got to take this call real quick, but I promise it won't be more than 3 minutes. And he goes, hey man, I know you've been trying to get a hold of me, and he has an egg timer on his thing and he sets it for 3. And he says, hey, I just wanted to, I got somebody in my office, but I want to take your call. I got 3 minutes. And it's tick, 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 tick. So when I call him now, he's like, hey man, what's going on? I said, don't touch that timer. So he goes, no, man, you got 4. And I said, all right, good. I feel.
A ding and then a click.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Hello, Brian. I told you 4. But no, he's committed to, hey, look, this is what I've got to get done. And you know what? Other business people respect that. Oh, it reminded me. You know the amazing thing is, I told you I was making these phone calls to these $2 to $5 million producers, right? Before, I was making phone calls to the mass populace in Orlando. All right, I put them into this phone burner system, so it was kind of auto dialing and things were cranking along. I would speak to about live 15%, if that. Okay, the other ones I was leaving messages and following with emails and the audit. It's a really cool system. It would leave an automatic voicemail for me that I already pre-recorded, and then it'll also send an auto follow-up email to them, which is kind of cool because I had their email in the system. But you know what I found with the $2 to $5 million producers? I'm speaking to about 85% of them live because they answer their phone. I said, I wonder if there's a correlation, the fact that they answer their phone.
We give him a list of Williams people still call
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder
Absolutely.
if there's a correlation by them being the 15%, close to 20.
That's what I'm saying. No, and that's why they're the $2 million producers. Exactly. I'm saying it's amazing to me because in my hour of power now, I'm actually only making 6 phone calls because I'm spending, about 10 minutes on the phone with each of them, just chatting a little bit and, and not all, they're not all like, others are, I get everything from, I have Keller Williams, tattooed on my buttocks, but, to, everything else in between. And so that's great. But we have a good conversation. And I say, hey, let me send you an email. You have my information. If things ever change, at least you have my data there,
And as I've gone through my evolution with calling, making calls, all different things, I've had 2 different power dialers that I've used, okay, and those, they're pretty amazing, and I haven't used one for a long time, but more of a senior kind of agent was offering Pam and I some mentoring, and so one day we're coming in and we're discussing this, and I tell her, yeah, I've been using this power dialer, I can dial 80 an hour. So, and she just kind of she goes, so, well, are you dialing people you want to talk to? It's like, it's like 80 people and you don't care versus really
10 that you want.
Exactly.
6.
Right.
That will take your call or whatever. And so I stopped using power dialer after that. It was it's just interesting. It made me think.
It's being more of a sniper.
Yeah.
Right, with my rifle, as opposed to just shooting a shotgun. And just kind of, blowing whatever, just kind of spraying things and see what hits. Right, let me just laser into who I want to talk to, and boom. All right, there you go. I mean, so I'm with you guys. Okay, so we've got first and 10s, structure overall kind of thing, affirmations, right, are things that we're doing. Sleeping, good. All right, good. That's part of it. We talked about that. Okay, what are you not currently doing? All right, here's the tough one, and you don't have to answer this out loud. This is something to think on and chew on, that you'll commit to, because we're not going to meet for the next 4 months, at least formally here. I mean, as far as a 100K club, I'm going to encourage you to still get together. But what are some of the things that you know from the book that you need to be doing? And or maybe not even from the book. Let's just take it to this or corn planting at this point, all right, that you're willing to commit to over the next 4 months. And don't have to answer out loud if you don't want to. If you want to share with us some things that you want to put it out there a little bit so we can maybe have some accountability, that's up to you. So just think on that. So, okay, well, maybe, you know what? The thing I haven't been doing is really the Sunday night ritual. All right, maybe I'm going to commit to that. You know what? I'm going to do that. And you don't have to do it on Sunday night per se. I remember the Sunday night ritual is what, it was ironic that was the night I had found 18 years ago worked for me, and it's one that he recommends in the book, right? Is that for me, it was a good way to wrap up the week, all right, recheck what the week was, what I did, and then plan my next. Because quite frankly, some of the part I did, I learned this, I was reading a lot, so I was just trying to figure things out, but part of me was, do I get to golf next week? This is pre-kids, right? And I had set my golf reward based upon had I met my goals for the previous week. So as I was doing Sunday night, I'd look back and say, do I get to schedule in golf this week or not? All right. If the answer is no, then the answer is no. All right. And that was, sometimes hard for my immediate gratification and justification. It's close. Come on, That's right. I love it. There you go. Great line. Exactly. I was halfway there, so right. I'll play half around. But I had to do. But remember we talked about this too. How powerful the mind is. That I not only did that, but I had to make sure that if I did, and that was the reward I had set for myself, that I did reward myself, and I did plan it, because so many times too prior I had done what I was supposed to do, but I was like, oh, now I'm so busy, I don't have time to do that. All right, because now I've actually got 5 things under contract. That's awesome. All right, but now I'm too busy and I don't have time to golf next week. Well, my mind said, okay, then why set the goal? Right? Why set the goal next time? Because guess what? You're not going to reward yourself anyway. Likewise, hey, I almost made it. Let me go ahead and play anyway. Well, why set the goal? Right? Kind of like what we talked about. Why have a closing date? Right? Why is there a closing date on the contract if it's, whatever, if we get there, we get there. Okay, well, we're trying to structure people's lives here, and people got to plan movers and all that stuff. So I'm kind of a believer that the date is the date. You know what I mean? And if it wasn't that important, why is there a line there that says the deed shall be delivered on? Okay, that kind of thing. So with that in mind, just start thinking about some of that stuff. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's maybe it is affirmations. All right. Maybe that you've already got them going on. Maybe somebody else isn't doing their affirmations. Chuck.
We committed to do power notes.
Awesome. Good.
I've done them.
Okay, that's fine.
But we got the cards.
Good.
We made the commitment. We got the system.
You're just loaded, man. You've got your corn seed. You've got your signs. You got your signs, and you've got your cards. All right. Do we need to go back and what was that third eye again? Implement. That's it.
Here's my notes from yesterday. Here it is.
That's right.
Ideas, inspiration,
Implementation. Exactly. That's at the top of the 100K group page, right? Go back to it's the banner. All right. Okay, go. You can always take a screenshot of that and blow it up and put that somewhere in your office if you want. So, because that's the key. That's the differentiator is the implementation, right? Remember we had 320 people there to see Michael Mayer, and I warned them then. I said the word of the day is implementation, guys. You're going to leave here with all sorts of great ideas. This is awesome. I can't wait. And then tomorrow you're going to wake up. Jim.
You need to add another eye to that and make it invest. Like time, energy, money.
Yeah.
Invest.
Yeah, exactly.
And then take what you've built, whether it be your time or whatever.
Yep.
And implement.
That's a good point. That's a fourth eye.
And
I agree.
having the inspiration, having the
idea.
Right. Great, but until you start putting it together.
That's right.
Taking time into it, putting it together, and getting it completed, and then implement. Which it kind of fits with implementing, but implementing to me is more of self-sufficient. Get it going.
Right. Exactly.
Release it to the world.
Right. Exactly. But you're right. But it takes some investment on the front side before you can really even implement it.
And not necessarily money.
No, see, that's right. My time, talents, and efforts. Right. Exactly. It's
money.
Yeah.
For signs.
Right, exactly, right, or notes, or cards.
Yeah, I share
right?
it, that's not.
That's right. Now it's beat up on Chuck. I put myself out there. That's right. That's what happens when you don't get to pay $100 for it. When you pay $100 an hour, then they have to listen to it and not pile on. This is free, so yeah, we pile on.
Now, is the F word sort of a subset of implementation?
The follow-up, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that in 7 levels? I mean, I've sort of started calling it the F word because it's a critical failure point, particularly in the real estate business.
Sure.
I mean, you've got to follow.
Absolutely. Ron Chorney was in the meeting last night, and he says he has a tab. He's an old school guy, so he's not electronic. But he has people filed in different sections, and it's funny because it's a good conversation starter because his tab is one of those, the old tabs that are green. It says FU, all right, and that's follow up for him, all right. But they say, well, that's cool, Ron. What section am I? You're in the FU column. They're like, what? He goes, that means follow up. Oh, okay, all right. So it's kind of a good, time to do that. But you're so right it all leads into it's a subset of implementation, as you said. That follow up. I'll tell you this. Utah is their name. JUTA. All right. What's that? Two T's? Okay, TTA is doing a great job on bank-owned properties and the flea market stuff. Her conversion rate is better than other people who are still meeting people there. And I grilled her last night a little bit and said, well, why? Why do you think that is? And she said, well, I meet them, I get their information, and then 3 days later, no later than 3 days later, I call them and say, hey, look, I'm just wanted to make sure I was setting you up for an automatic email feed through Listing Book or whatever. I want to make sure. I just wanted to confirm I had your email address correct. She goes, and from there on out, I call them, even though they're on this automatic. I call them at least once a week. Once a week, consistently, until they tell me not to. She goes, that's part of and so. But she also has 4 sales, in the pipeline, has closed 3 deals last month, and another 4 in the pipeline, directly attributed to the people she's met either at the bank-owned or here, or at the flea market stuff. But she's following up with them.
Well, and if you're doing any kind of lead generation, the follow-up and the follow-up systems are critical.
Absolutely.
And then if you get into internet leads and all that,
right.
It's about follow-up.
Yeah.
They will be as good as you make them, just like the flea market leads.
Correct. Well, and how many times you hear that most sales are made in between the 3rd and the 12th, whatever, and those numbers are legit, right? It's just that it's consistency wins the day, right? And it's the people who, because at first they're not going to just, especially when you're dealing with not cold, but semi-lukewarm leads. These people are walking in, they don't know you from Adam, right? So how are you going to show yourself to them? You think you're going to win them over necessarily in day one? I joke that, not joke, but my goal is for them to leave and say, I've met my last realtor. But the reality of that situation is that always going to happen? Probably not. But if you can prove yourself to them by some consistent follow-up.
But they engage in a pre-selection process.
Sure.
By stopping at your booth.
Correct, right.
So now you've weeded out 1,000 humans out there.
Yeah.
You've weeded out 980 of them down to 20 people that at least have an interest in real estate. They're thinking about it.
Enough to stop.
Yeah. And you don't know where they're going to be in the decision cycle.
Sure.
But they've kind of raised their hand.
They have.
They are word-keeping.
Way warmer than a white pages.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, you're right. and you're absolutely correct. So, and I agree with you.
Keller did a study on the white pages.
And what?
Cold calls.
Okay, and?
Well, the Keller Institute,
Yeah.
They literally got all these agents and they had them do cold calling for a certain period of time. Now, and I don't have the statistics in my head, but they proved that if you could, and most people couldn't, make phone calls and cold calls,
sure, truly cold,
from the white pages, that you could make. They whittled it down to you'll get this many appointments, you get this many. You can make $300,000 a year.
I would not doubt that you would.
Once you started getting appointments, you wouldn't be able to make the phone calls that generated the appointments.
Right. So you wouldn't be able. Yeah. So actually, if you had a good appointment setter.
Correct.
That would be exactly, and they were that good to do it. But after they're that good, they're like, okay, so I just set an appointment, so you're going to make it a $12,000 commission, and you're paying me how much an hour?
How long does it take?
Yeah, right. For them, they're like, you know what? I just went online and I can get my real estate license in 60 days. I'm setting the appointment, you sucker. I mean, what if I go? It's going to so you end up training your. That's right. Exactly. Good point. All right. And here's, will you guys commit to being part of an accountability group? Because I'm just telling you, any type of momentum we might have right now is going to fall. all right, if you're not consistently being around, tying in, and it's easy to tie into the 100K group page because we don't know if you're there or not, all right? But if you're an accountability group, we know if you're not there or not, all right? So I'm going to highly encourage you, and I'm going to let this kind of take a mind of its own. All right? I'll be in and out a little bit this summer, but not anything with consistency. And so with that in mind, you know, it's going to be you guys kind of jumping in and deciding what's going to work and what's not going to work. Fair enough? Okay.
Wasn't Jim Hurley thinking of putting one?
Jim Hurley's thinking of putting one together. The group last night is putting one together. It may be one big group. There might be some times that might be 3 subsets, and then, you know, on the 6th week, all of a sudden all 3 subsets, let's all go meet at the Tarp and Turtle or whatever. You know what I mean? Or, you know, Kevin's house. All right. Right, or wherever we're going, right, to get that done.
My kitchen's cleaner than theirs is.
It's never used. All right, and this is actually habit 6 and 7, by the way. We're going to go through real quickly here. All right, I forgot to update it to habit 5, so from habit 5. All right, habit 6 is synergy. All right, and we all heard the term, right? We know what synergy means. I love that his definition is basically is that the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. All right, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, is what I'm saying. All right, so it's your efforts plus my efforts doesn't equal 3, it equals 8. Because together we all achieve more, all right? And the whole team definition and all that kind of stuff, right? So that being said, though, it's not, read it, and if you haven't read the chapter, read the chapter, both chapters actually, that and Sharpening the Saw. We're going to cover both of them a little bit real fast. But it's really good feedback on the concept of if we have a synergistic mindset. And in that, I think where he leads in the book is a lot to, there are people who think differently than you do, and that's okay. Together, that dynamic helps, and it kind of leads into our mastermind. Would you be willing to be part of a mastermind? Because someone's going to tweak an idea that Chuck's going to say something that's going to resonate with me that I hadn't thought of before. You know what I mean? In a different perspective on things and a way to look at it and do it. Synergistic communication. This one, I just wrote this down real fast because I have to watch myself. I told you I was raised in a real negative upbringing, and it comes out in me. As positive as I try and like to be and like to think I am, I got, where was it? In this section under synergy, in his section on synergistic communication, there's something I highlighted. It's not real long, but it was powerful. It says this, okay. So it's talking about the fact that if I'm truly in dialoguing with somebody and communicating with them, right, that I'm going to hear what they're saying and not put my filter on it, which is, again, I'm talking to myself right now because I do that a lot, right? I put my filter on everything, all my intake. It has my filter built there. So in that, he says, most people have not really experienced even a moderate degree of synergy in their family life or in other interactions. Catch this. This is what spoke to me. They've been trained and scripted into defensive and protective communications or into believing that life or other people can't be trusted. It's funny how I read things. We talk about, one of our things is that I encourage people to go to a corporate worship service, right? Or, because I think that we can be spoken to in different ways, whether it be through books or life experience or whatever. It's amazing to me when I go to church and all of a sudden, like out of blue, I said, how does that have to do with, how did that come about, right? That just says a word, I won't go into all the details. The word expunged came up, all right, in Jeanette and I's dialogue over the last 3 weeks, all right, something that so we haven't used, and all of a sudden we were listening. We missed church. We went to church, but we were working in the nursery. So we actually watched online another guy that we liked from a church we used to attend, and he was talking about and how God's grace will, it saves us, but sometimes our actions, the penalties of those actions will never truly be expunged. And he used that exact word, and I was like, holy crap, if that's not just, because I haven't used the word expunged in years, right? And it was something, and Jeanette and I just kind of looked at each other and I was like, wow. And so with this, Jeanette and I were talking the other day, we were buying a house up there, a different house up there, and it has an asphalt driveway. And, she grew up a pastor's daughter, and so, they tight budgets and everything else. And so we're looking, because this house just needs a ton of work, right? And I'm saying, she goes, well, that driveway, I bet you there's a way we could research and fill, there's asphalt patch. You can kind of, because it's not a big spot, we could do that. And then she goes, it seems like I recall that, and I remember as a little girl helping my dad, like at the church parking lot, and I had like a big squeegee, and I was putting, and so we and I said, oh, we can never do that. And she looked at me and said, why is it always no? Why is it always the thought we can't? And I was like, no, I'm Mr. Positive. I'm, rah, rah. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Right? Why did my mind automatically go to no? As opposed to, you know what? That's why I love hanging around. Throw it at me. Okay. That's right.
You rolled your eyes.
You guys have to sit away beyond shin kicking distance, right? That's why Jeanette and I have to sit 4 chairs apart at church, right? Exactly. So when we hear these things, I got to be out of her reach of her, her shin kick. All right. So, but I had to honestly look at myself and fillet myself and said, you know what? You're right. It's something there that I automatically go to no, as opposed to, yeah, I can do that. That's what I love about Jim, man. I present an option for Jim. He said, oh, we'll figure that out. I'm like, oh, God bless you, man. I'm glad that's the attitude to have. He said, we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out. I don't know. There's something out there, right? We called Jim MacGyver, man. One time our filing cabinet wouldn't close all the way. Next thing I know, I'd come in and there's a little piece of paper shimmed underneath, and the filing cabinet stayed closed. All right.
My chair was too low at the office there, so I kind of engineered a way, and I showed it to him, and he says, I like you.
That's it. And so this is something that just really spoke to me. It's that, man, you know what? Am I synergistic in my communications? All right? Am I allowing other people's thoughts and their point of view to come into me and say, hey, you know what? How do we work together? So speaking of that, he also speaks of the third alternative. And this is important to read this, guys, because this is important in our negotiating skills. When a problem comes up, or hey, look, buyer says they want to pay X, seller wants to get Y. How do we get to X plus Y divided by 2? Okay, the third alternative. All right. Okay, so where do we average that out and make that a compromise that works? So, but it takes parties on both sides recognizing the other person's point of view to understand that there is a potential third alternative. It is. It's not my way or the highway. It's how about we find a third way, okay, that does that, and I have to learn that as well. And then also in here he references the concept of valuing differences. Instead of automatically saying, well, you're different than me, okay, well, you know what? Let me recognize that's a different point of thought. I hadn't come out that way, and let me seek the value in that way of thinking, right? In that perspective, let me get around here and say, okay, you know what? I see where you're coming from there, right? Still don't agree with you, but I see where you're coming from, and maybe that we can eventually get to that third way. So if you had a chance to read Habit 6, read it, because it's really good, and he does a really good job of kind of buttoning up some of it. And it all kind of comes together, all right, as we work. And then the 7th habit is what he calls sharpening the saw. And if you haven't read that chapter, it came from this, basically. He tells the story of a guy. So you're walking in the woods, and you come across a guy, and he's, sawing on a log, or sawing a tree, all right, and he's just out of breath, and he takes a quick break, and you say, hey, what's going on? Oh, I've been sawing on this thing for 5 hours and not making any progress. And you look at his saw and say, well, why don't you spend about 5 minutes and sharpen your saw? And he says, no, I'm too busy to do that. I'm too busy sawing, right? And that's where we go, right? Is that, man, I can't, the water keeps coming in the boat, man. I'm bailing as fast as I can. Well, how about you plug the hole and then bail, right? And so this time of renewal, said, I need to renew my saw. That's where the sharpen the saw comes from. And it's interesting because remember we talked about we covered our mission statement, our vision yesterday, right? And in the vision, it says that, that we're going to create the most agent-centric model in the world. And then from that, we're going to focus first on agent productivity. And that productivity is going to be on agent growth, and in that agent growth is going to be in all dimensions, intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all that kind of stuff. Well, I thought I was a genius, but obviously I had, taken this from somewhere. All right. What he calls is renewal. Spend some time to renew. All right. And he encouraged you to renew physically, socially / emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. That your life can evolve all around this work thing. It's part of it. All right. We need to eat to live. All right. And you have family members relying on you. All right. To fix their thumb and so on and so forth. That they need you to do these kind of things. But you also owe it to yourself to spend some time sharpening the saw. All right, renewing yourself so that you become more productive. Because when your saw is sharpened, now it only takes an extra 12 minutes and the tree's down. All right, whereas you can be due for another 5 hours and you're not going to go anywhere, not make any progress on that tree because you haven't sharpened the saw. Does that make sense? Okay, so spend some time, and if you get a chance to read that, there's some really good stuff in there, and do it. All right.
Isn't that what 100K is?
Yeah, I think part of it is, right? Absolutely. And it's and I think it's going to be part of it. It's funny. I think I told you so I'm co-chair of this top 50 brokers in the state of Florida group that meets twice a year physically. And I've been part of the group for the last 5 or 6 years, but now I'm co-chairing it this year, which means I'll be chair next year. Well, my chairman this year is Nikki Ubaldini. All right. Okay, so it's great. And Nikki and I have gotten along great, and I've known Nikki for years. But she was laughing because Nikki and I were saying, well, we think it should be a better forum that the top 50 brokers can actually share some ideas back and forth. Obviously they're going to be guarded in some things, but other things, that we can, issues that are, because quite frankly, I think they told us those top 50 brokerages, account for 87% of the agents in Florida. Okay, there are tens of thousands of brokerages, but a lot of them are just onesie twosie. So the top 50 account for about 87% of all the agents, right? And so with that in mind, there are some things that are common concerns and issues, right? So we thought about that, and so Nikki said, well, why don't we we're emailing back and forth, and with the guy who's our liaison from the Florida Realtors, said, why don't we call it top 50 broker mastermind or something like that. And I said, I'm good with that. And then he said, I think we might get some pushback from some of the other brokers because the term mastermind is associated with Keller Williams. And I emailed back immediately. I said, Gary Keller would be thrilled to know that you associate the term mastermind with Keller Williams. I said, I am quite sure that Aristotle, Socrates, and Plato in their day had mastermind groups. That's what they did. They met at hey, let's go to the town center and philosophize, right? And think about, what this is. It's really a mastermind group is what they were doing, right? So I highly encourage us to take the time to sharpen the saw and be part of this accountability / mastermind / whatever, the synergy of everybody together being stronger than us individually out there, doing it. So I highly encourage you to do that.
By the way, Bob,
Yeah.
if the feedback from that group is valuable and interesting to you, if you want better feedback, form a national organization that doesn't have brokers from Florida.
Right, you're right.
That aren't competing with each other.
Sure, absolutely. We'll have to go on the same pool.
Then they'll be real.
That's a good point.
Sharing.
That's a good point, and I like that idea, and I will present that because I'm trying to do some more creative things because I've been the part of the group for 5 or 6 years, and it's kind of we rehash the same stuff, and there's some guardedness, against and so I'm with you, but but there are also some good things that come of it because we're trying to attack major issues that are coming down, threats coming down our way, from whether it be politically and all that kind of stuff that are coming about. So, but I'll try and use that once, especially I have the chairmanship to kind of guide that a little bit. All right, so we've talked about our commitments to the team. One of the things, Evelyn, that we're going to add for next time, just so you know, we'll be making your bed. All right. Evelyn posted there was a great little, probably 3 or 4 minute. It was a Navy SEAL who's speaking to maybe a group of cadets.
That was great.
Yeah.
You talked about that yesterday, making your bed. It's like, there's a lot to be said for that.
There is, because it's the little things. It's the discipline in the small things and that's why I'm sure it has nothing to do. They don't make Marines make their bed to a certain degree, was so the penny bounces off of it or whatever, and the joke is right. Right. Well, they do, but they don't do it because they want their beds made.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
They do it for the disciplined aspect of it. Right. That we're teaching us that we're all the same, that nobody's different. And guess what? Quite frankly, I guarantee that if you go to the colonel's, room, his bed's made the same way because we're all in this together kind of thing. So with that in mind, I guarantee there's a direct relationship with people that are, disciplined enough to do those kind of things, to do that. So it's not on this list yet, but we'll add it for next time.
Hey, help me with one thing.
Yeah.
Corporate, what's a corporate?
Oh yeah, corporate, just group. Yeah, because they say organized corporate worship setting being, because some people, going to church. They call that corporate worship, I guess. Corporate being together with other people.
As opposed to the people that say, I don't go to church, but I've got a...
Yeah, I'm going to go sit on the sand and hear the waves crash. And that's cool if that's, because I understand. I'm also sensitive to people that have been de-churched, right, because of church. You know what I mean? It's one of the, the biggest problem most religions have is the people of that religion. Right, they're the biggest detractor of people wanting to go there is because they're there. You know what I mean? Well, it's true, and myself included. Right, is that I'm not saying I'm the any not part of that problem in myself, but it's just it's full of people, and that's why I always joke with, well, when you find the perfect church, don't go, because as soon as you go, it will no longer be perfect. Right? So you just kind of you ruin that. All right, and again, myself included. So that's what corporate is. All right, and that's why I say preferably. Because there are some people that are so anti that I don't want to miss them still connecting with the higher power just because of other people. And, because, quite frankly, we all know stories. People have been abused at church and all that kind of stuff. There are issues around that, and I get it. So all those there, we have those posted several times. That slide has not changed. So here's some thoughts to consider. Remember I talked about early on that I think that the people who succeed in this business are the ones that decide. Okay? Because, quite frankly, Keller Williams having all the greatest training in the world, guess what? You can go find all the greatest training in the world if you decide, no matter where you are. Okay? Here as well. All right? We're at 23.7%. I'd love to be able to look at the statistics and say, well, we're at 48% of our agents do $2 million and above, and at Keller Williams, they're at 22%. So their whole theory that, or don't go to Ruttenberg because they're at 19.7%. Well, that's fine, but the difference in 19.7 and 23.7, especially when they've got their numbers that they do, it's not that much different. People have decided, right? It's the same 20% that has decided to make it happen. So with that in mind, will you be the one? And the answer is yeah. All right, but my question again is really? Okay. And my next question is, really? Okay. All right, are you going to decide? Okay. And finally, on the next session, all right, we'll get this fired up again as far as 100K again, formally meeting. Usually it's either late August, early September. Okay. I'm going to revamp it a little bit. I've taught this now 3 times in a row. All right. And I don't want to dissuade this. Here's the good news. The good news is Jim's adding 30 to 35 agents a month. So in 3 months, I'm going to have 100 new agents to teach this to. Okay, that need to hear it, that haven't been introduced to this. Yet, I also want to be sensitive to those who have been through it 3 times to say, okay, 4, okay, all right. Okay, well, how do we add value to that, right? And
I'm right there with it.
Okay.
But if you count the sessions that I've missed, it's probably more like 2.
Right, exactly, and that's fair enough, and that's good. And, that's, no different than organic chemistry in college, right? Okay, 4th time, all right, you finally got it. Right, exactly. All right, that being said, email me your thoughts, okay? And I'll put this out again even more closely to when we're going to, revamp. But I want to provide you value. And it may end up being that we may need to do something and have a, 100K 101 and 100K 201. You know what I mean? I don't know that. But there also, I can tell you that there's value in having you guys that have begun to implement interspersed with those who are just being introduced to it as well. I will tell you, I don't think I'm going to go through it as slowly, lesson by lesson. I think I'm going to intersperse other stuff, but it will be part of it because I'm a firm believer in what he teaches here. I really believe that this is a great manual on how to handle a real estate career. I truly believe that. We'll probably choose a different book than this, but we'll probably reference this a lot as well, because I think there's, again, I could read this over and over again. This is like the Golden Gate Bridge to me, painting the Golden Gate Bridge, right? By the time I get done reading it, okay, let me go back and start repainting. Okay, all right, because by the time I get done painting the Golden Gate Bridge, the part I painted 3.5 years ago needs to be painted again. All right, and so that's how they're always painting the Golden Gate Bridge. All right, and so it's a never-ending project. That being said, I think that's the way I am with some of this stuff too. All right, that I can always be reminded. We're not going to go slow. But if there are other things that you come across, hey, look, man, I'd really like to dig deeper into this. Let me know, all right? Because I want to provide something that is of value. We don't want to just spend time at 100K to say, I spent time at 100K. It's kind of like church. I don't like to go to church because I say, I went to church. If I go to a church and I don't leave with something of value, I go find another church, quite frankly. Now, sometimes I got to be careful that it's not me. Every church I go to, I'm not getting anything out of it. Who's the common denominator here? Well, that's me, all right? That's the problem. I got a problem with every church I go to. Well, guess what? You're there. What was that country song years ago? No matter where I go, there I am. It's like, wow, story of my life, man. Look at that. That one spoke deeply to me. You say it with a twang and a fiddle. I get it. To make it happen. So cool. So I'm here to help. And then finally, I think I have anything that I can do to help you. All right. Just because I may not be here physically on a consistent basis, because quite frankly, my goal for the summer is to get some of that stuff done. I got to get moved and all that kind of stuff up in Tennessee, and there's a lot going on there. But also including taking down all the siding of our house and putting new brick on. All right, not me doing it, but making that's done so it gets sold. But the other part is I'm kind of trying to focus on Orlando, get our Orlando, because here's the thing. I want to have 100 agents in Orlando pretty quickly. The neat thing is, because this one's actually, Jim's adding 35 agents a month here. All right, he's got this thing rolling. We don't have the following there, but I know that if I get the right 5, they'll lead me to the right 15, who will lead me to the extra 35, and next thing you know, with our 20 we've already got there, we'll be at 100. All right, and so for me, I got to focus. It's simple enough. Just get the right 5. All right, so the right 5 will have a little bit of a following that will bring me 15, and those 15 will lead another 35 there, and next thing you know, we're done.
There's some things going on in Orlando from a real estate standpoint that aren't happening in other.
As far as
just the organization of our industry, I think Zip Realty has a presence over there.
Yeah, they do. Well, it's so international, huge international there, because they just have so many people coming in, because it's the number one destination spot in the world for foreigners coming in, because it's Disney, the empire that is Disney. All right, and so because I'm learning it's very international there, very, 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 and so there's a lot of stuff that people maybe, hey, look, it doesn't matter to them, or it does matter to them, that different things. So I'm just trying to, and so I'll probably make some quick trips down and be over there exclusively, trying to do that. But I'm always available. Jim's always here. He'll just text you and say he's in a meeting right now. With one flip of a button, and all said, well, he's a fast typer. But I value feedback. Pay attention to the 100K group page, because we're going to, and if it doesn't happen organically quickly enough, I'll start instigating it, saying, hey guys, you're supposed to be, when's that first mastermind group meeting? You know what I mean? Guys, somebody needs to step up and take charge. I'd love for that to just kind of happen naturally, and I think it will. But if not, I'm going to hold you accountable to that, because I think there's value.
It probably makes sense for the two groups to merge.
I think so too. At least sometimes, right? Exactly. Yeah, and whether it be, hey, you know what? There's value in having 20 of us in the room at sometimes, and others value that there's just 4 of us, that get to meet, that a little more in depth too. I think there's value in both. You know what I mean? That you can meet. Hey, look, there's a little Wesley Chapel, break off session, but once every other week or every third week, we're going to come together and meet here, or whatever the case may be. All right. Just be fair warned, that Tuesday night group's a pretty social club. All right. So they're going to want to meet somewhere where there's drinks involved. After the fact. If not during the meeting, is soon thereafter. Right? They're ready to roll. So but it's a fun group too, and there are some really good people knocking this business out in that group too. So I think you'll appreciate that. Anything I can answer for you now? I'm always reachable. My phone works in Tennessee. It's amazing. We just got it. And email works. It's a pretty amazing thing. Cell towers. It's amazing. They're all hidden. They all look like church steeples. All right. More churches per capita than anywhere else in the world, I think. That's right. Yeah. And seriously, if you need anything. And by the way, congratulations on. I'm looking around the room. You know what I mean. We start with a larger group. All right. I told you the Tuesday night group started with 53 people. We were down to about 12 last night. All right. We started out with, I think, 32, I think, in our first meeting that first Monday, that first time we met in the morning at Pro. All right. And here we are. All right. So it's the doers who do it. All right. It's those who decide are the ones that are going to win. All right. I can't decide for you. It has to be you. Cool. Awesome. I know Danielle, I saw her post that I think she had a sick baby, right? Yeah. So just tell her we missed her and that. All right, very good. Well, tell her we missed her and that.
We brought our kid with a broken thumb.
That's right, exactly. Well, you know what? Broken thumb isn't going to throw up on my carpet. All right, unless you grab it and say I'm going to rub dirt on it, then he might throw up on the carpet.